Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well today. So I am back today with a really fun summer sewing project. Recently, I just finished making this tank top and shorts set, which I think turned out so cute. The fabric is this beautiful coral tone gingham fabric from Joann Fabrics. It's 100% cotton and it is a seersucker fabric, so it has some nice texture to it. I'm not sure if you can see that here, but I really love the fabric and I think the set turned out so cute. So for the top, I used the Colette Pattern Sorbito top pattern, which is a free pattern on the Seamwork website. Now I did use the older version of this pattern because I already had that downloaded and printed. The only difference I've noticed between the old version and a newer edition of the pattern is that the older one is a little bit shorter in the length. So to make something like I made, you will just want to crop it a little bit more. I did crop this pattern, but I love the way this looks. And I also added a really cute button placket in the back. So I'll show you how to make that adjustment. And then for the shorts, I used a vintage 1950s pattern, which I have in my pattern stash. I actually made the same pair of shorts last summer from a floral linen fabric, and I have a video that goes over that in detail as well. But I love having this pair in the gingham. Let me show you the pattern really quickly as well. Here is what the pattern looks like. I made this view right here. I love the illustrations on these old patterns. This is a very delicate pattern jacket, so I don't have the pattern in it, but this is what the design looks like. There we go. So with all of that said, let's go ahead and jump in and let me show you how I made these projects. So for today's video, I'm mainly going to focus on making the tank top since I do have a previous video going over the shorts pattern. So let's start with the top. I'm using the Colette Patterns Sorbito tank top pattern, which is actually one of the first pieces of clothing I ever made for myself. And I'm going to make a couple of adjustments. First up, for the back piece, I'm adding 2 inches of width and not cutting this on the fold. Then for the front piece, I'm going to eliminate the section that is marked as the pleat and just cut this on the fold. So I have 3 total pieces. Then I've also made some bias tape out of my fabric and also some matching covered buttons, and with all of that, I'm ready to get started sewing. So the first thing I'm going to do is prepare the back pieces to become the button placket later on. So I'm going to start by stabilizing the edge of the back pieces by using some fusible interfacing. So I have a 2-inch wide strip of interfacing that I'm just going to adhere to the back of the shirt. And then I'm going to fold over this edge. I'm going to start by folding this in 1/4 of an inch, and then I'll just fold this edge in to meet the edge of the interfacing. So I end up taking away about 1 inch of width. Remember, we added 2 inches to this, so this will allow this to overlap about 1 inch when I add the buttons later on. So I'm just going to press this down and then come back and top stitch across this entire edge and repeat the same thing on the other side. Now, while I'm at my ironing board, I'm going to go ahead and pin the darts in place on the front of the shirt. So there are 2 darts that I need to sew. So I'm just going to transfer the markings from the pattern and go ahead and pin these in place and then sew them down on the sewing machine. So now over at the sewing machine, I can go ahead and top stitch the back pieces like we talked about before and sew the darts in place. I'm going to give the darts a quick press and make sure everything is looking nice and neat, and then I can move on to sewing the shoulder seams. I'm going to pin together the shoulder and side seams all at the same time here, so I'm just taking my front and back pieces and aligning them along the shoulder seam with the right sides together. Then I'll pin across this edge and sew all of these seams using a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and pin the side seams as well while I'm at it, and then I can sew all of these seams down. I'm also going to use the serger to finish the edge. You could use whatever kind of edge finishing technique you like here. So now with those seams sewn and pressed, I can move on to what I think is the most fun part of this pattern, working with the bias tape. So this pattern is designed for the armholes and neck edge to be finished off with bias binding, which I think looks so cute, especially with this checkered gingham print. So I've made some bias tape out of my matching fabric. You could also buy bias tape if you prefer, but I think it's really fun to customize it. So I'm just opening out my bias tape and I'm going to pin this around the armhole. I have the right side of the bias tape aligned to the wrong side of the shirt, and I'm going to pin all the way around the circle but leave a little bit of a gap at the bottom of the armhole so that I can attach the bias tape together in a smooth line later on, and you'll be able to see that a little bit more clearly as we go. So once all of that is pinned in place, I'm going to sew around this, making sure to leave that gap where the edges of the bias tape meet. So now once I've finished sewing around the armhole, I'm going to open out both sides of the bias tape and match the bias tape together with the right sides together, making sure that when I flatten this out, that everything will be really smooth around the armhole. Then I'm just going to sew this together, trim any of the excess bias tape, and then I can sew the bias tape through where we left that gap on the armhole to make sure that everything is nicely aligned and smooth. And now with all of that sewn on, I'm going to trim any of the excess seam allowance and then go ahead and fold the bias tape towards the outside of the shirt. This should be really easy to do since it's pre-folded and pressed down, so I'm just folding it along that natural fold line. And then I'm going to pin this in place all the way around the armhole and top stitch along the edge of the bias tape to make sure that everything is neatly encased. I really love the way this looks. It's almost like a little bit of an extra trim or detail, and it looks so neat and crisp. with the binding done on both of the armholes, I can move on to the neck opening. So this is just a little bit different. It's the same technique, but I'm going to do this slightly differently since it's one open edge instead of a closed circle like the armholes. So let me just show you how to do that really quickly. It starts out the same way. I'm just going to pin this along the neck edge with the right side of the bias tape facing the wrong side of the shirt. The only difference here is I'm going to fold in the raw edge just a little bit on either end of the neck opening, and you'll see this as I go. And once the bias tape is pinned all the way around the neck opening, I'm just going to trim a little bit of the excess from the raw edges and then fold these towards the inside, making sure that the bias tape is open here. And this will allow everything to look really clean on that edge when I turn the bias tape towards the right side to top stitch it. That whole edge will be encased. And with the neck edge finished, I can move on to hemming the shirt. So I decided I wanted to take away a little bit of the length from mine because I liked a more cropped look. So I am hemming this 2 inches, and I'm going to start by folding in 1 inch and trimming a little bit of the excess, and then folding in another inch, and then I can go ahead and sew down my hem on the sewing machine. The final step to making this shirt is just to add the buttons and buttonholes. So I went ahead and tried the shirt on to make sure that the overlap fit nicely on the back of the shirt, and I'm going to go ahead and mark where I want my buttonholes to sit on the back of the shirt. Then I'll take this over to the sewing machine and sew all of my buttonholes in place. I decided to use 5 buttons and buttonholes for my shirt. You can really do whatever you want, and it's very customizable when you're adding your own set of buttons. This is just what I liked the look of. I'm using my seam ripper to open out these buttonholes, being careful not to catch any of those stitches, and then I can go ahead and mark and sew my buttons in place. So I like to use the buttonholes and a pencil to mark where the buttons should go. I just draw through the buttonhole to make sure that I have a little dot on the other side, and then I know exactly where to sew each button on. So I'm going to go ahead and sew on all of my buttons by hand. I love the way these covered buttons look. I've made quite a few projects with covered buttons lately, and I just think they're so much fun. And with with the buttons attached, this shirt is done, and I could go ahead and move on to making the shorts. Now, since I do have that whole video going over how I make this shorts pattern, I'm not going to go into it in too much detail here, but this is a really fun pattern. I really enjoy having this one in my pattern stash. It has pleats in the front and then 2 darts in the back, and it's pretty simple to put together. It also has side pockets and a side zipper, and I like that there's no fly closure to sew on these, so it's a little bit easier, at least in my opinion. So I went ahead and stitched these together, and once they were done, this whole set was done. But I'll go ahead and link to that video so you can see a full sew along to the gingham shorts. I did decide to bind the inside of the pockets with bias binding, mostly because I forgot to serge them when I needed to, but I actually really loved the way this looked. It kind of tied it to the outside of the tank top. So I thought that was a really fun detail. And here is a look at how the finished set turned out. I think it turned out so adorably. I think it looks very vintage, and that's been something I've been very into this summer. So I'm really enjoying having this in my wardrobe. I've been wearing the tank top a lot, and I want to get some more use out of the 2 pieces together because I think it looks so cute. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the whole process. I just love how both of these pieces turned out. I think they're so perfect for summer, both as a set together and also as separates. I've been wearing the top a lot with jeans and with some cream colored shorts, as well as with the gingham. I think it looks so cute. So I'm excited to have these versatile pieces in my wardrobe for the summertime, perfect for the really hot weather we've been having as well. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time on my channel today. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this project came together. I will be back very soon with a dress project that I'm really excited about, and I can't wait to show that to you guys soon. If you would like to stay tuned for my future videos and you haven't subscribed already, you can go ahead and subscribe by clicking the red button down below. I would love to have you stay tuned for my future videos. And also, if you'd like to keep up with me on more of a regular basis, you can follow me over on Instagram and TikTok. I'm trying to post a little bit more consistently on both of those platforms, so I would love to see you on either of those. I will have those linked down below as well. But thank you guys for spending your time here on my channel today. I really appreciate it, and I will talk to you in a new video very soon. Bye!